Hello, I'm Sophie Masson, and I'm one of the contributors to South of the Sun, Australian Fairy Tales for the 21st Century, which is a publication of the Australian Fairy Tale Society and Serenity Press. My story is called The Silver Apples of the Moon, and it's based on several themes from fairy tale as well as other things and poetry. The Silver Apples of the Moon. She lived alone. I knew that from what I'd read online. A reclusive poet, they called her, with a haunted past. That haunted past had caught up with her, of course, ever since the discovery just a week or so ago of those bones they'd found. There had been no confirmed DNA results yet, and the police were tight-lipped. But of course that didn't stop the theorising, for the decades-old mystery of the Moonlight Fleet had come back into the public consciousness, or at least that part of it represented on the internet. And they'd ferreted out where she was now. That's the trouble with being a public figure in any way, even one as retiring as her. You can change your name and avoid social media and try to erase your history, but sooner or later, if the sleuths want to find out about you, they will. The only way she could have avoided it if she had turned her back on the thing that gave her breath and meaning, her writing. Even back then, even as a child, I'd known obscurely that wasn't possible, that she would die without the words she spun. Back then it was stories she created, not poems, although she knew a lot of poetry. Unlike most of us, she absorbed those kinds of things like a sponge. Sometimes we would sit and listen to her telling her own stories and reciting other people's poems, all of us kids in the messy bark shelter we'd made near the waterhole. It was a place for us all to escape to when the adults were having what they called their sharing meetings, but which all too often deteriorate into shouting matches that you could hear up and down the paddocks. The Moonlight Commune had been founded along principles of peace and harmony, but principles, alas, don't always or even usually translate into reality. And the fact was that most of Moonlight's founding members were strong characters with their own decided view on things and not much appetite for compromise. Somehow, despite it all, things muddled on regardless, and we children just went along with things and tried to make ourselves a little space of our own, as children have always done throughout time and in all sorts of situations. Moonlight was our home and a kind of paradise for children, where we could run wild, climb trees, ride shaggy horses, stay out late, swim in the deliciously cool deep waterhole, dance in the rain, collect cicadas, catch yabbies and eels from the creeks, while watching out for the common North Coast hazards of snakes and ticks and bull ants. We were supposed to keep an eye on the goats, but in truth it was more the other way round. The little herd led by Daisy May, the goat matriarch, tended to follow in our footsteps as though they knew we could easily forget where we were and what we were supposed to do. We were homeschooled, not badly as it happens, for many of the Moonlight members were highly educated and some of them had been teachers or academics into the bargain. We rarely went into the local town, which was a bone-shaking hour's ride away in one of the old jeeps, and we didn't miss it most of the time. We had plenty of company. There were about a dozen of us kids altogether living on the commune, and we got up to plenty of fun and mischief, which by and large was looked on benignly by the adults who had other fish to fry in any case. But we did enjoy the times when we went in as a group to take part in one of the colourful markets that had sprung up and down the hippie trail around the region. Moonlight had a certain reputation within that small world for the quality of its dairy products, goat milk and cheeses and yogurts, and the products we brought always sold out. On those market days we ate at one of the other stalls, and the adults caught up with their friends while we kids ran around looking at wind chimes and fire twirlers and spinners and potters and jugglers and ate too many healthy sweets. Stop. I can't look at the past, not right now when I'm walking down her street in the present, my nerves shaking. Will she recognise me? And if she does, will she pretend she doesn't? We parted so abruptly, all of us vanishing from each other after the tragedy, and different lives claimed us. I'd often thought of her, that it was only a few months ago that I really started trying to find her. And when I did try, it was without success. She had changed her name and her picture did not appear on any social media sites. Her absence from them was unremarkable. Poets aren't generally sought after by literary fame hounds, I had learned. Not that I know much about the poetry world, but of course now her privacy had been blown wide open by the discovery of those bones. And you'll have to read the book to find out what happens next. but it is very much a mixture of mystery, of crime story, of fairy tale, of supernatural. And I hope you'll enjoy it. And it's been such a wonderful thing to be part of this fantastic anthology. Congratulations to the Australian Fairy Tale Society and to Serenity Press for publishing it. It's wonderful to see it out there at last.